India's fight against cyber-enabled financial fraud has entered a new phase. Now, on 30th June, RBI issued a major directive mandating all scheduled commercial banks, payments banks, small finance banks, and cooperative banks to integrate the Department of Telecommunication Financial Fraud Risk Indicator or FRI into their systems. Now, launched by DOT's Digital Intelligence Unit in May, the FRI classifies mobile numbers into medium, high, or very high risk, drawing on data from the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal. DOT's Chakshu platform and intelligence shared by financial firms, early adopters like HDFC Bank, ICICI, PNB, PhonePe, Paytm, and India Post Payments Bank are already leveraging this tool to block, alert, or delay suspicious UPI transactions in real time. Now, the interagency collaboration represents a watershed moment, building a digital safety net that spans telecom and finance. And with UPI being India's top payment platform, the implication for consumer trust and fraud mitigations are huge. To unpack this, let's bring in our panel today, and I'm joined by Dr. Pavan Duggal, Senior Cyber Law Strategic Significance over here. Hi Pavan, good evening and welcome to the show. Let's understand the significance of FRI, which is a very basic question. I really want to know how transformative is RBI's move from a regulatory standpoint, and what does it indicate about the central bank's trust in cross-sector tech collaboration in this particular scenario?
The central bank is committed towards preparing and implementing a secure payment cyber ecosystem. Keeping that thing in mind, way back in 2011, the Reserve Bank of India had appointed the G. Gopalakrishna Working Group on Information Security, of which I was a member, and we had come up with a detailed report, which became the foundation for the cybersecurity infrastructure for the banks as they went along. Now, this particular new initiative of the Reserve Bank of India is yet another new initiative that's aimed for making the ecosystem more secure. From the perspective of the users, they are crying hoarse. Why? Because they are saying Indians are bleeding. They are losing their money left, right, and center. And the insensitive approach towards the banks, towards such a scenario only further complicates the scenario and also tends to erode the confidence of people at large. Therefore, now this new bold move has been put up by the RBI, which is more preventive in nature, which is aimed at preventing fraud at the very root instance, and which is aimed at ultimately strengthening the hands of the ultimate consumers. It's going to be mandated for all banks, telecom companies to ensure documented compliances with these particular protocols. If they do not do that, then there is a legal ramification because all banks and telecom service providers are intermediaries under Section 21W of the Information Technology Act 2000. And having said that, if they don't really comply with the mandatory mandate of RBI in this regard, they will be deemed to not having exercised due diligence while they discharge their obligations under the law. That being so, both the banks and the telecom service providers will face some severe consequences, including losing their statutory exemption from legal liability and making them exposed to legal consequences, both civil and criminal, under the Information Technology Act 2000, as also under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023. So I think it's a remarkable move forward, but I think we need to go beyond. After the initial celebration and exuberance, we have to look at how are we effectively going to enforce this particular mechanism. This should not just be a mere lip service movement. It should be an exercise which should be thoroughly, effectively, and practically implemented and enforced.
Right. But Pavan, one thing I wanted to understand now, see, early results from platforms like PhonePe and Paytm show FRI is working well so far. But I still have questions on the accuracy part of it, false positives and customer impact being measured.
Obviously, these are practical challenges that will continue to keep on arising. Why? Because false narratives will keep on happening. There will be practical challenges. But the important thing is, let's begin the journey. We will reach our destination at an appropriate point of time, and RBI will have to calibrate its strategies while it continues to ride a running tiger. So these practical issues and challenges will have to be met up, and that can only be done if the collated experiences of stakeholders in implementing this new move are collated at one place and the appropriate challenges are then met up with the appropriate responses. But then we are not, putting this entire scheme in stone. We are saying this is a step forward. Please also realize that the golden age of cybercrime has arrived. We also need to appreciate that today cyber criminals are extensively using artificial intelligence for the purposes of targeting and defrauding others. Just to give one particular example, in last 4 months, Indians lost more than 2,000 crores only to digital arrest matters. Leave aside all other kinds of cyber frauds. So once these preemptive mechanisms are going to put in place, and once these checks and balances are effectively enforced, while they will have practical teething problems, which we understand, but at least it's a step in the right direction. And the output of the experiences that are felt with and are generated by various stakeholders can then be further examined by RBI, and appropriate modification in the way forward could also be appropriately prepared.
All right. Pawan, one more thing. See, FRI relies heavily on mobile number intelligence. That is what we know so far. Now, what additional data sources or indicators would enhance the detection? Are there any plans to refine the risk model? Can this be done?
Well, I think ultimately you will have to go ahead and refine the risk model. That will have to be done practically, administratively, and legally. Legally, the legal liability of banks is well established as intermediaries under Section 21W of IT Act and Section 79 of the IT Act. The Reserve Bank of India on 6th of July 2017 has come up with a zero liability notification, mandating that if somebody finds an unauthorized activity or a transaction in his account which is not attributable to his negligence or consent, then he's not going to be liable for making the payment, and the bank will have to repay the entire monies. But despite that zero liability notification in place, banks in the last almost 1 decade have been finding new novel excuses to avoid their compliance with the zero liability notification. So the risks are many. Banks will have to go ahead and come up with the risk mitigation strategies. Banks will also have to be tightening their belts. Why? Because now, henceforth, with these kind of new measures in place, more and more users are going to take criminal action against the banks. And since the bank cannot be sent to jail, the top management can definitely be exposed to criminal consequences, including criminal prosecution. So that's a new trend that I'm seeing on the horizon. In addition, banks should also be prepared to be sued for damages by way of compensation. In addition, now with the impending Digital Personal Data Protection Act that's likely to come in force, the entire contours of the game are going to change. And therefore, banks will have to go ahead and revise their respective strategies, limit their risks, come up with risk mitigation measures so that they can actually not just win the confidence of the user, also create a more cyber secure, cyber resilient, and cyber reliable space, and ultimately work in the direction so that we can minimize these so-called growing risks from cyber frauds. Already banks have to play a crucial role because in India, 98% of the monies that are lost in cyber frauds ultimately get routed through banks. So if the RBI can actually tighten the hold and the accountability of the banks in that regard, we can contribute substantially towards reducing these massive quantum of cyber frauds and cyber related activities and offenses.
Sure. We really wish to see that FRI goes beyond banks to fintechs, NBFCs, merchant aggregators also, and has a broader national framework. But thank you so much, Pavan, for being on the show and helping our viewers understand this particular step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you.